Newly elected, eccentric liberal President Javier Milei is trying to radically transform his country. However, this transformation is not happening at the speed Milei would like. His extreme policies and harsh rhetoric have already strained relations with several countries. Under Milei's leadership, Argentina is acting like the United States representative in South America, perhaps even more extreme than the U.S. itself. This approach reminds many of Trump's governing style. The big question is, can Milei's policies save Argentina's sinking economy, or will they plunge the country into an even deeper crisis? Milei is attempting an extreme form of liberalism that no one in Argentina has dared to try before. This seems like a grand social experiment, and everyone is eagerly waiting to see the results. Milei's radical policies have had many negative effects in Argentina. However, it's said that there have been some positive changes, particularly in the real estate market. Property prices and the availability of rental housing in the capital have reportedly improved. For years, Argentina enforced one of the strictest rent control laws in the world, aimed at ensuring everyone in Buenos Aires had access to affordable housing. However, the results didn't turn out as planned. Rents and property prices skyrocketed. Milei, who opposes every rule and institution, believes that government regulations are slowing Argentina's economy. He argues that the skyrocketing rents in Buenos Aires were caused by the state's socialist laws. Therefore, he lifted all restrictions on landlords and tenants. As a result, the supply of rental properties in the capital increased by 170%. Landlords began competing with one another to rent out their properties. Adjusted for inflation, the real prices of rents have dropped by 40%. Milei's move to abolish rent control is seen as the most notable victory of his shock therapy economic policies, at least for now. He is systematically dismantling the state controls established during 80 years of socialist and military rule, and easing trade restrictions. These efforts are drastically changing the lives of many Argentinians. In Buenos Aires, apartments that had long been vacant are now being rented out rapidly. Landlords, given the new freedom by law, have shifted from short-term vacation rentals to long-term leases. By 2022, there were an estimated 200,000 vacant homes in Buenos Aires. With rent control lifted, a flood of available rental homes hit the market. Landlords can now set rent in dollars, pesos, or euros, and contracts can be as short as 3 months. In an inflationary environment, the ability to frequently adjust rents benefits landlords greatly. However, for low-income Argentinians, these policies have made housing costs unbearable. In some areas, rents have doubled or even tripled, and frequent rent hikes have led to complaints and protests from tenants. This has created a survival of the fittest scenario in which the wealthy and middle classes fare much better. Real estate agents predict that this market fluctuation won't last long and that rental prices will balance out with supply and demand. According to large real estate platforms like Zeno-Propa, the new influx of available apartments has already driven down monthly rent increases to their lowest level since 2021. However, it's still too early to draw definitive conclusions about the long-term impacts of Milei's free market policies. Milei argues that the country's previous problems stemmed from protectionist and interventionist policies. He lifted price controls on basic goods such as milk and sugar, deregulated natural gas, removed export bans on beef, and eased restrictions on steel imports to lower construction costs. Essentially, Argentina has become a social and economic laboratory under Milei's leadership. Even his critics believe that he may not be entirely sure of the eventual outcome. Milei took over an Argentina mired in hyperinflation. The previous left-wing government had imposed restrictions and bans on over 50,000 products. Milei claims these policies led the country into ruin, and insists that the free market will eventually bring prosperity. The drop in inflation from 237% to 20% seems to support this claim. However, Milei refuses to provide any assistance to the most vulnerable segments of society. He has made deep cuts to education, healthcare, pensions, and social welfare programs, while following the International Monetary Fund's recommendations and even going beyond them. He is focused on balancing the budget at all costs, even if it means severe austerity. However, while cutting spending everywhere else, Milei has proposed increasing the budget for intelligence and security, which has faced opposition in Parliament. Meanwhile, poverty is rising fast. By December 2023, 44% of the population was living in poverty, a number that has now risen to over 60%. It's true that Milei inherited a devastated economy. But his remedy overlooks human dignity. He asks people to endure pain now in exchange for future prosperity. However, Milei and his team seem to have forgotten the real purpose of economics. Not just to satisfy endless demands with limited resources, but also to serve people. Sacrificing the weakest among us to fix the economy is not true success. On the other hand, distorting market rules through government intervention is not the solution either. Limiting landlords' rights to set rent prices to protect the poor only ends up hurting everyone, especially the poor. This is a lesson that Turkey has already learned. The Turkish government's decision to cap rent increases at 25% in an inflationary environment, much like in Argentina, led to social unrest and conflict between landlords and tenants. The state should play a minimal role in the economy, acting only as a facilitator to ensure smooth market operations. Returning to Milei, I don't see a positive future for Argentina under his leadership. He is ignoring the suffering of the people, and this is likely to end in crisis. With only a small parliamentary group from his party and strong opposition, it appears that Argentina is in for a difficult road ahead. I understand the Argentine people. They placed their trust in centrist parties but were disappointed. Now, out of desperation, they've chosen a radical leader like Milei. Unfortunately, the people will have to bear the consequences of their choice.